Have you ever wanted to light your enemies on fire, then shock them to death, then dip their disintegrated remains into a pool of acid, then freeze the acid, then blow up the ice with a nuclear bomb? Well, you should probably get some help if that's the case, but we're going to be talking about Maliwan SMGs in this video, and they can do all sorts of elemental damage. We're not going to be looking at uniques or legendaries because the parts that make those guns what they are not going to be on any other gun. However, many of the parts we are going to look at will be able to spawn on legendaries and uniques, so it might be good to know what you can get. We're going to start off with the body. Every single Maliwan SMG will have the same body, no matter the rarity. And the body has a chance to spawn with up to 3 accessories. The first shown here is going to decrease charge duration by 20%, as Maliwan weapons have a charge time before they can start firing. The second one here will increase elemental damage by 10%. And the third and final body accessory will increase projectile speed by 30% and give an accuracy bonus of negative 15%. Now, when you're looking at parts, it appears that negative accuracy is always a bonus, whereas you think it would actually be a penalty. So yeah. Moving on, the body and its accessories are done, so we'll take a look at the barrels. The barrels are going to determine the base name of the gun, and each barrel will have their own set of accessories that can't be shared with the other barrels. There are 4 of them that we'll take a look at now. The first is the Nebula barrel. The Nebula has a high base damage and a low fire rate. It also applies the highest dots and has the highest dot chance on average, and has a splash damage radius. This is the barrel here, and this is where that splash damage radius comes from, increasing it to 75. In addition to this, it can come with up to 3 accessories. The first will increase elemental damage by 10%. The second will also increase elemental damage by 10%. The third will increase projectile speed by 30% and will add a melee attachment to the gun for 60% additional melee damage. Now this is the only Maliwan barrel that can get a melee attachment. Next we have the Pulsar barrel. The Pulsar has the highest fire rate but lower damage and dots than the Nebula. It also shoots slower moving projectiles. Here is the barrel, which provides no stated bonuses here. This one can also have up to 3 accessories. The first will decrease accuracy bloom by 25%. The second will increase fire rate by 10%, and the last one here will also increase fire rate by 10%. The third barrel is the Quasar barrel. This is essentially a laser. It has a fire rate faster than the Nebula, but slower than the Pulsar, and lower damage, dots, and dot chances than both. It does have the fastest projectile speed, if you can call them projectiles, but it does suffer from a range cap, making it impossible to hit enemies with it from a certain distance. And here's the barrel. Like the first 2 barrels, this one can also come with 3 accessories. The first will provide a damage increase of 10%. The second accessory will also provide a damage increase of 10%. And the third will increase your magazine size by 10%. Now we come to the 4th barrel, which is the Heliophage. This is the alien barrel variant of a Maliwan SMG. It has the fastest fire rate of the Maliwan SMGs and consumes at least 2 ammo per shot, and may consume more depending on the parts. Just for having this barrel, you'll get a 20% bump in your magazine size. It can also come with an accessory that will increase projectile speed by 30% and decrease both recoil width and recoil height by 25%. With the barrels and their accessories being done, we're going to move on to the grips, of which there are 3. The first will decrease accuracy bloom by 30% and increase fire rate by 5%. The second will decrease charge time by 10% and provide a 10% accuracy bonus. This one can actually spawn with an accessory providing 1 additional projectile per shot and a 10% increase in magazine size, and in return receives a 24% damage penalty, an accuracy bloom penalty of 20%, and an accuracy penalty of 21%. Having this accessory will result in the binary prefix. The third grip will provide 10% elemental damage and then 2 instances of negative 30% weapon sway. Why there are 2 with 1 appearing positive and 1 negative, I have no idea. Personally, I think it's a bug, but who knows, it's here. Next we come to the magazines. There are 3 of these and they're pretty straightforward. The first magazine will have a size of 24 and will give you a 10% increase in damage. The second will have a size of 34 and has no bonuses or penalties. The last will have a size of 44 and will reduce your damage by 10%. The magazines are done, and now we come to the stocks. There are 3 of these. The first will reduce your accuracy bloom by 20% and will increase damage by 5%. The second here is going to decrease charge duration by 10% and give a 5% fire rate bonus. And the last stock is going to increase elemental damage by 10%, and then that weird thing with weapon sway happens here again with two 30% decreases. As far as sights go, there are 4 different options here. 3 different scopes and iron sights. The first scope will give you either 1.7 times zoom or 1.8 times zoom. You'll sometimes see one or the other when you look at the gun cards of the guns that have this sight, and this happens with the other 2 scopes as well. Might be a rounding issue or something. Additionally, having the scope will also give you a 5% increase in damage. The second scope will provide 2.2 times zoom or 2.3 times zoom depending on the gun card, and will give you a splash damage radius increase of 20%. The third scope will give you either 2.9 times or 3 times zoom depending on the gun card, and will increase your projectile speed by 15%. The iron sights, when you get them, will show up as their own part and will decrease your reload time by 5%. They will also show up on the gun card occasionally as 1.4 times zoom. Now we come to the elements. Maliwan weapons have the special ability to switch between 2 elements, and exactly 2 elements will spawn on a non-unique or non-legendary. There doesn't appear to be any restrictions on which 2 elements you can get on a gun. The elements themselves are fire, shock, corrosion, cryo, and radiation. I put together this table to help show all of the parts that I found for Maliwan SMGs because there's a lot to remember. I'll also put a link in the description to a spreadsheet with this table and more as I work through all of the weapon parts for all of the manufacturers. Anyways guys, that's going to do it for Maliwan SMGs. Good luck memorizing these.